Welcome back, everybody, to the Hills Are Silent podcast, where we like to chop it up about the games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I am Two-Tone the Artist.
And I am Mitch the Peach.
You know, we're back at it, busy lives, but gotta jump in and talk about some games. So, Mitch, I don't know about you, man, but going a little crazy on the pickups, gotta say. So, if you got some pickups as well, I think we should knock that out first and then go on to the games we've been playing recently. Been playing some good stuff, some classics. So, excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I've definitely been picking up quite a few as well, especially it's been a while since our last episode, so it's inevitable that we were all both going to have at least a few. I will say I didn't spend too much money on a lot of them,
It looks
though.
worse than it is because it's been a while.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to chop it up to that. But yeah, I'll go ahead and get started with the easy ones that I can kind of knock out all in one swing that I have already showed you. But basically, it is the entire Gears of War collection on physical. Gears of War 1, 2, 3, Judgment.
Why are there two copies of two?
I forgot I actually have one of them is my childhood case. There's no game in there.
Okay.
I just kept it next to it. Yeah, I have my childhood case with nothing in it, but then I've got
Yeah, man, when I first started collecting games, the main ones I went for initially were the bangers. So, Xbox 360, yeah, the Gears of War collection. Man, gotta have that one. Couch co-op.
Yeah.
Man.
And while they are on, Game Pass and whatnot, it was like, man, I just want them all in physical because one, they're super cheap right now. I think I paid, looking at these, I paid like $6 a piece for them. So like nothing for them. And I mean, like they're going to be great games to have forever, even if I don't have Game Pass at some point along the line.
That's the beauty of it. Those games sold millions of copies, so there's plenty available, so you can get them for dirt cheap. Question though.
Mm-hmm.
I see 1, 2, 3, and the black sheep of the series, Gears of War Judgment, which was still pretty decent. What about 4, 5, and Gears of War Ultimate for Xbox One? Do you have those by chance?
I've got Gears of War Ultimate on physical. That is actually next to, I think I stacked it next to all these ones as well, but I still need to get, I was just trying to knock out the 360 ones since they were all sitting there all cheap, but I still need to get 4, 5, and 6 on the newer consoles, but I will eventually, because I just like Halo, I'm trying to collect them all because it's one of my favorite series of all time, and it's just a no-brainer to have them all.
Yeah, and again, they're great buddy games. Couch co-op or multiplayer. They got the Horde mode.
Yeah, the Horde mode's great.
Yeah, those are some
just
good-ass games.
Fantastic. I'm probably gonna get the Gears of War Tactics one too that they came out with. I beat that one on digital, but it'd be cool to have that as well physical.
Yeah, you were telling me that one was really good, but I still have not played that one.
Yeah, I mean it's really good, solid like tactics game, like in the Gears of War universe. I mean, did a great job on it. I burned through that one pretty fast, but yeah, that one was a lot of fun. But yeah, super stoked to have these in the collection. They were pretty cheap, lots of copies. Not that they're ever going to be rare by any means, but it's still nice to have them.
Yeah. What else you got, man?
Yeah, moving on here. So I did all these pickups through our nice mega replay over in Peoria. So Mike was actually just in Peoria recently, and he was there as well for a bit. I did pick this one up because they had it just kind of chilling in their little glass case at the checkout, and I was going for like the buy 6 get 1 free thing that they have. And this one's House of the Dead 2 and 3 Return for the Wii. It's got manual and case, manual and disc, but yeah, the disc is kind of cool looking.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I actually recently played through House of the Dead 3 and 2 not that long ago, because I have House of the Dead 3 on the original Xbox, because I got light guns, CRT TV, I cranked through that recently, and then that game actually comes with House of the Dead 2 as an unlockable game once you beat the campaign for 3, which I'm glad they did that, Because really, you can crank through House of the Dead 3 in like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember buying that for the original Xbox back when it first came out in like 2003. And I bought the light guns. And I expected the game to be like several hours long. Like, I get it. It's an arcade game ported to home console. I understand that now. But back then, I never played it in the arcade, so I assumed it was like a full-length game. And when I beat it,
Right.
I was like,
You're like, wait a minute.
like, I just paid $50 for this game, man. Plus the guns, like whatever they cost at the time. So, I mean, it was nice that House of the Dead 2 came with it, but that game is also, if you really know what you're doing, that game's also only like 25, 30 minutes long, maybe, to beat. So, not a whole lot of the meat on those bones for those games.
No, but great ones to play at the arcade, kind of like you said, if you got a buddy and to crank through that, especially ones that you don't have to put quarters in for or anything. Always nice.
Yeah.
Moving along, I don't think I showed this. I bought this a while ago, but I don't think I ever showed it on the podcast. But I have one of my favorite Japanese RPGs of all time, Lost Odyssey. On physical. I beat this over COVID. I want to say this like during COVID lockdown. I think it's like a 60-hour at least RPG. But honestly, probably one of my favorite Japanese RPGs of all time. And actually, it comes with not one, not two, not three, but literally 4 discs total in the that it comes with, so it is a big game.
I've never seen that on the 360. Like, maybe back in the PlayStation 1 era, games came on 4 discs. Like, I think Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and maybe 9 did, but on Xbox 360, yeah, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, and if people are watching at home, you can see my cat knocking everything off of my desk behind me, or off my bookshelf, but it's fine. Last but not least, this one actually just came in yesterday, and I got it from our good old friends at Limited Run Games. But I got the Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 remastered on physical. I was excited that this came in. Case looks cool. I love the little bit of Limited Run logo that they kind of throw on there as well. And
one of my pickups is Limited Run too, man. This guy's
nice.
Awesome. Did you see that they're also remastering Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6 next?
I did see that, yeah, and that's pretty sweet too, honestly. I'm just going to keep adding, honestly, at this point. I have a lot of the newer Tomb Raiders on, like the reboot Tomb Raiders on physical, so might as well just keep... You have pretty much every Tomb Raider on physical now.
I got all of them, pretty much, yeah. Although I did not pick that up from Limited Run. I have the originals that those remasters were made from.
Yeah.
But that one, yeah. Man, I should have nabbed that. But I don't know, man. I'd spent too much cheese and, got to pick and choose your battles.
Can't get them all. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I did also get Halo Combat Evolved. I forgot to bring that one up. I got the original Halo Combat Evolved on physical because, as we've talked about, I'm collecting all of the Halo games. Yeah. And that was one that I was missing.
Version by chance?
Yeah, I have that's the one I had prior, and I'm like, I need the actual just Halo one though. I can't, the anniversary's great, but it'd be good to have the OG as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man, is that it for you?
That's it.
All right, bro, let me dive in.
Yeah, let's see it.
Probably should have combined these by platform, but yeah, I did go to Peoria. I did stop by Mega Replay, see what was cooking. Man, I got a great deal there. Because they've got like a buy however many get one free deal that I always forget about. And in addition to that, like you can rack points up. Just, it's like one of those membership things. I had a $10 off coupon.
I did too, actually, but now that I think about it.
I go here like once a year when I visit back home. Like, how do I have a $10 off?
Yeah.
So yeah, I
love it. He's like, you want to use this? I'm like, yeah, because I won't be back here for a while.
Right. So anyway, starting with PlayStation 1, speaking of light gun games.
Oh, that's so cool.
Die Hard Trilogy. It's the greatest hits version. This was like $6. And man, look at that classic. Our OG Rainbow Six ad in there, man.
That's sick.
Anyway, this is like 3 games in one. So the first game's like a third-person shooter. The second game is a light gun shooter, which is why I got this. And then the third one is kind of like a driving-only game. None of them are particularly great, but man, if it's a light
cool
gun
collection,
game,
though.
You know I'm going to snag it.
Yep.
Next up, Siphon Filter 3 for PlayStation 1.
Okay. I've not heard of that series.
You never heard of Siphon Filter? Oh, man, you were missing out. This is a good one. It's a huge case. It's a case that would hold like 4 discs, but it's only 1 disc. And
back when nobody cared about saving any plastic or...
so I tried to figure out why this... There are some PlayStation 1 games that come in these double discs that only have 1 disc. So I'm like, why do they do this? So as far as I can tell, if the game came with like a really thick manual...
That's what I was thinking.
It comes with 2 manuals. It comes with the game manual and then a weapons guide.
Okay.
They would use these double cases to accommodate the extra manuals. At least that's what it seems. Siphon Filter is a third-person shooter. I remember playing the original one on one of those PlayStation 1 demo discs they gave out at Pizza Hut. And the coolest thing is in that game, they give you a taser. And if you tase a bad guy and you continue to pull the trigger, the guy will actually start smoking. And like he's being fried, and then he'll fall over dead. I thought that was so brutal as a kid. But yeah, it's a long running series. It was on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and I think they had a few games on PSP, and then eventually it died out. But this was a real popular Sony published franchise. I'm surprised they've never brought him back. All right, man. Let me just go in order of era.
Okay.
So next up, got a bunch of OG Xbox games.
Nice.
Got Wings of War, a World War I arcade flight game.
You love those flight games.
They're decent. To be honest, I can't play them for more than like an hour at a time because they get kind of samey, but they can be interesting. And I like that there's like World War I games, World War II, Vietnam, like modern combat. And speaking of, picked up Star Wars Starfighter Special Edition, another
nice.
No manual, but another air combat game. But remember, I picked up that flight stick for Xbox 360. So since some of these games are backwards compatible, some of these OG Xbox games are backwards compatible on the Xbox 360, that flight stick works on them too.
Nice.
So anytime and they're cheap as hell, dude. Another reason to grab them.
I figured as much.
This one was $2.99. This one was like, I don't know, $10 or less. Next up, I think last time I picked up Sniper Elite 4, last episode. This one, the original Sniper Elite for the original Xbox.
I just love OG Xbox cases and discs and everything about it.
They're robust, like some tomato sauce, man. They are robust cases. You pick this up and you pick up a PlayStation 4 game, it's just like, man. This was.
I also love like the Xbox Live enabled.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that golden. Come on, man. That was just badass. Like, I give it to them.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, their branding was on point, and they've kind of fizzled because to me, Xbox Series X cases are just kind of bland looking these days.
Yeah.
But this one is. Apparently, you can play this whole game in co-op, which is one of the reasons I picked it up. And also, I think you can play like a head-to-head mode too, up to 4 players. It's probably not that great of a port. I think this was originally a PC game first and foremost, and they probably like really nerfed it to fit on the OG Xbox. But hey, man, if it's got co-op, I'm gonna check it out. And last but not least, I gotta know if you've ever even heard of this game. Battle Engine Akia.
Nope, never heard of it.
You see, it's got some like War of the Worlds freaking thing and some soldiers on the bottom. Bummer, this one doesn't have the manual, but oh well. This game is very hard to come by. And I've only seen, as many times as I've gone game hunting, I've only seen this game once on the PlayStation 2. And then I almost picked it up, but then I knew it was on the OG Xbox. And really, the games always run better on OG Xbox than PlayStation 2. So when I was at Mega Replay, and I saw they had it on the OG Xbox. I was like, oh snaps, I'm copping that. Again, 2-player split screen mode. There's a versus and cooperative, it says. So yeah, I've heard this game is pretty good. But anyway, it's not expensive, but it's one of the rare instances where I think a game is uncommon, but yet also cheap and a good game. All right, man, just cranking through these. Next up, Xbox 360, Sacred 2, Fallen Angel.
I have heard of that one. I've not played it, but I've seen it many times, and I've never picked it up.
Okay. Oh, by the way, the Battle Engine Akia, I think I paid $2.99 for.
Nice.
And this one was like $7. I had it on PlayStation 3. Well, I have it on PlayStation 3, but it runs really bad on the PS3. It's real choppy, so I was like, all right, I'll grab the Xbox 360 version since I know that'll run better. It's kind of like a Diablo game.
Okay.
And then I've been on the lookout for this one. For $10, I nabbed Wanted Weapons of Fate, which is a third-person shooter. I played the demo back in the day on Xbox 360. Remember downloading the demos? It's a dope game. Is
it based off? Is there a movie that was named that?
Yeah, it was originally a movie, and usually movie tie-in games aren't that great. But this one is supposed to be kind of like the sequel to the movie. It's not like actually following the movie plot. And it's a third-person cover shooter. And you know, at the time, those were a dime a dozen on the Xbox 360. Yeah. So this one,
but now, I mean, it's great.
Shadows, but it has a cool mechanic where you can bend bullets. So your guy kind of like shoots and swings his arm just like the movie, and then the bullet will like curve over cover and run into somebody. It's
now I remember, because that was like their whole marketing shtick on that movie. Like it's like they can bend the bullets. It's gonna be an epic action flick. I'm like, oh man.
It's a pretty sweet game. It's short. It's only a couple hours long, but you know it doesn't overstay its welcome. All right, man. Try to crank through these fast, man. Up to the PS4, and I'll said it before, I'll say it again. The PlayStation 4 is fast becoming my favorite console to collect for, because in my mind, it's like the last hoorah of like actual physical games, and it's just an amazing console. Like games look amazing. They're huge games. Even modern stuff is still coming out on PS4, and people can hate and be salty about it all they want, and try to say that PS4 is holding the next generation back, but man, I'm just grateful these games are still dropping on PS4.
Because they're not releasing on PS5 anywhere. There's no games coming out for PS.
But yeah, my dude is. I love the PS4, man, and the Xbox 360 and the OG Xbox, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, copped Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. On a previous episode, I told you I was real hyped about this one coming out, and I've been playing this. It's pretty sweet. It runs great on the PS4. They definitely delivered.
I was telling you off the pod that one got like rave reviews from like every publication.
Yeah, dude, it's good. I'm glad I copped that one. Rockstar Games presents Red Dead Redemption. So this is basically like a re-release, a remaster on PS4 with all the DLC.
Classic.
It could be better. I mean, it runs at 30 frames per second. I think 1080p on the base PlayStation 4 and like 1440p on the PS4 Pro. So the resolution's good. It would have been nice if it ran at 60 frames per second, but it's whatever. I'm not that picky. I've been playing this. I played this just a little bit when it first came out, so I really didn't remember it. And I don't know, man. Not really feeling
it's okay.
Did you play through this one back in the day?
I've beaten both 1 and 2, and honestly, I mean, they're good. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I feel like I kind of forced myself through it at by the end. You know, I was like, all right, I've gotten this far. I should finish it. But especially Red Dead 2. Red Dead 2 is really long, and I don't know. I feel like I kind of got bored after a while.
Yeah,
maybe it's just because I don't like that Wild West world. That's not really my shtick in gaming. That's not my favorite kind of RPG to go through.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll keep playing it a little longer. But yeah, it wasn't holding my interest.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a GTA fan for sure. If we're going Rockstar, I'd rather play through a GTA campaign.
Yeah, it feels kind of like a more bare bones GTA. Like it's just yeah. I don't know, man. Just you can either in GTA you're driving through this like real detailed city, and Red Dead Redemption you're like driving through just like the prairie, and there's really not much going on. So yeah, man. My next mission is to try to finish up collecting all the Yakuza games.
That's where I'm trying to start, honestly.
Yeah, so, and thankfully, that new one that's coming out, that pirate one, is still releasing on PS4, and they're coming out with a physical version of it. So, again, thank you. What is the company called? Ryu
Gataku?
Yeah. Thank you guys for releasing games on PS4 still. I appreciate it. They still run great on PS4. But anyway, they came out with this game, which is Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, which you may be like, dude, that's not a game. Well, it's made by that same developer using the same game engine, and the game mechanics are the same. So it's essentially like a full conversion of a Yakuza game to fit the Fist of the North Star like IP. So I would technically consider that a Yakuza game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in addition to that, I picked up Like a Dragon Ishin, which is a remake of a PlayStation 3 game that only came out in Japan initially. And then I recently ordered from PlayAsia.com The Man Who Erased His Name and Infinite Wealth for PS4, but I'm still waiting on those ones. So after that, the only one I'll be missing is the new one that they're coming out with, which I'll be able to cop on PS4.
Yeah, I've realized, like, I've been trying to play them chronologically, basically, because I've beaten 0 through 6, and as we're going to talk about shortly, I'm about to beat 7, Like a Dragon, and I didn't realize, like, some of those spin-off ones are actually, like, chronologically, like, they're in, like, it's not all just, like, spin-offs that are unrelated. They're actually chronologically, like, in the, I guess, in the same universe, aside from Ishin. Ishin is like it's a spin-off in a different time period where they all look like the same characters, but they're not. But yeah, like Man Who Erased His Name is part of like the actual chronological order of like the games. Like you play that, I think, after you beat 7. I think even the pirate one, because I think the pirate one's based on it's based on what's his face losing his memory, so he becomes a pirate.
Majima?
Majima. Yeah,
so,
but
and The Man Who Erased His Name, they actually did not release that game physically in the US. But I don't know if you've ever gone on PlayAsia.com, the website.
No.
They do sell US releases, but the real thing about that website is you're able to get imports.
Okay.
And a lot of the Asian releases or Korean releases will have English in them. So The Man Who Erased His Name never got a physical release here in the US, but you can get the Asian version, which has English. And there's some other games. When I get them, I'll talk about them then.
Yeah.
But yeah, another example is this. I picked up the Neo Complete Edition. Mm-hmm. So we never got the Complete Edition here in the US. We only got the base game. But if you get this, I believe this is a Korean release. If you get this Korean release, then you actually get the Complete Edition with the up-to-date game and all the DLC all on disc.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it is interesting that, because, I'm all about complete editions. Like, give me the most up-to-date version, all the DLC on disc. I don't want to download stuff. I don't want to download code. Like, I want this game forever. And it is nice that through PlayAsia, you can get these international releases that still support English. But you got to be real careful, because there's, like, Korean releases, Japanese releases, Chinese releases, and they don't all have English. But usually the site's pretty good about letting you know which ones support English. Nice. But anyway, that's the other one I got, Neo Complete Edition. Same situation, Bloodborne Game of the Year Edition. We never got this in the US. It comes with the base game and the DLC on disc. but it was released in the UK and in Asian markets. So yeah, so next one I picked up, Bloodborne Game of the Year Edition.
Nice.
My limited run game, Turok 3. You know, I already caught the other two Turok remasters from.
I know you're waiting on that one. You're like, they haven't done 3, and then they finally did it.
Yeah, and I ordered this so long ago. I got an email. It's like limited run. Your game is being delivered. I'm like, what the heck did I order from limited
What
run?
did I?
Oh yeah, Turok 3, man, like 6 months ago. Ah, snaps. But yeah, these Night Dive Studios, man, everything they remaster is gold. I love it. So I picked that up. Dying Light 2 Stay Human was $15 at Mega Replay. It's, you know, this one I probably would have preferred to play this on a newer generation or on PC, but the steepest discount that I've found for this on the PC version has been $30. So I'm like, man, if I gotta play, you know, a slightly crappier running version on PS4, whatever.
So be it.
Pay $15 for it. And then last but not least, in addition to light gun games, you know, I'm all about my physical VR games. So I snagged Batman.
Of course,
Arkham
the Batman VR.
Which
Yeah,
was like $7.
pretty good. I think there's some decent reviews on that one.
Yeah, I heard it was all right.
It was fine.
Anyway, man, copped a lot. Very careful and very selective, though. Most of this stuff is really cheap. I think the only thing that was actually more than these two, the Fist of the North Star and the Like a Dragon Edition, I think those were $25 each. Bloodborne Game of the Year Edition, I think I paid $25 for, and this Neo one was probably the most expensive, which was like $40. But
yeah, I think it's the first time in our halls that I've spent less than you, because I went I think the most that I spent was $15 on like that House of the Dead 2 and 3.
yeah. Usually I'm usually about quantity over quality. Actually, I can't even say that. I'm usually about.
I think you got both in this scenario, honestly.
Because you can get so many bangers. I mean, the Gears of War games, the game stores are practically giving those away. But that does not take away from the fact that those are amazing games. You're going to get way more than like $5 of value out of those. Those are classics, dude. Whatever price games are, rarely actually matches like the enjoyment value.
Oh, 100% agree.
Really cheap games that are amazing. And also you have really weird and rare obscure games that are super expensive and super collectible, but they're just not fun to play. You and I covered that LSD game.
I was just going to say that.
Like a bunch of episodes back, and that game's selling for like $1,000, and it's just is not fun at all. I would never in a million years pay $1,000 for that game.
It was hard just to watch.
Yeah, but I would buy a $2 Gears of War every time, essentially.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, man, I know that was a lot. Thanks for bearing with me. Went a little nutso, but you know, multiple months.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Nothing too crazy.
Nah.
All right, man. Well, let's jump into what we've actually been playing. So you and I teamed up to play an old game. And by old, I mean 2012, which is crazy to think that's old, but, you know. Anyway, we jumped into Resident Evil Raccoon City, which is like the black sheep of the series. It's an action third-person shooter. Nothing scary about it. It was a very huge departure from the rest of the series. It got critically panned when it first came out. And I think I played it real briefly when it first came out on PC. And was just like, meh, and then never went back to it. But since you and I have knocked off a lot of the other obscure Resident Evil games off of my backlog, and I'm getting closer and closer to actually beating all of them, I had to eventually come back around and beat Resident Evil Raccoon City. Thankfully, it's a co-op game, so, you know, crappy games are much more fun with the buddy, and thankfully, the servers are still up. Well, you can still play it on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The the PC version has long been delisted. And those, you know, even if you have it on Steam, the servers don't work anymore. But I hopped on my old Xbox 360. You hopped on this game in backwards compatibility mode on your Xbox Series X. and we cranked through this, man. So we got to start with the first level. Like, I think one of the reasons why this was so critically panned is because the developers put the worst level first. And it really, like, set the tone the wrong way. But if you make it through that first level, it's actually a decent enough game. So, like,
Yeah.
You want to, like, describe what the first level was?
Dude, I can't even remember at this point, honestly. It's been a while. Jog my memory of how it began, so
Yeah, so
I could
it starts off
bring it
simple
back.
enough with, like, a battle in some forgettable facility. But at the end, you're facing off against a tyrant, like, right off the bat. Which a tyrant is usually like the end boss in Resident Evil games. But it's set to a way where the camera changes, so you're kind of like the tyrant's chasing you down.
Yeah.
Like almost like I don't know, some like Raiders of the Lost Ark thing. Like you're trying to run from this tyrant guy. And
now it's coming back to me.
It's like one hit kills you, and it's so janky, and it immediately changes the controls. It changes to this weird perspective when you're running from the tyrant, and basically changes the controls on the fly, which is really confusing to the user. And then you have no idea what you're supposed to do. He's invincible, but it doesn't tell you that. So we're just sitting there like laying in him, wasting ammo, and then he's just killing us over and over and over again. So it's just like there's no information conveyed to the user on like what you're supposed to do. The controls are all of a sudden completely different, and it's just super wonky and janky. But we made it through that, and there's a lot of great levels after that. There's like actually being in Raccoon City when it's infested with zombies. You're going through umbrella facilities. Like it's pretty cool. It does take place around Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, and you actually do run into Leon.
I was gonna say that, yeah.
And then there's some weird. Let's not ruin the end, but the showdown was kind of weird and very confusing.
The showdown was weird, and Mike and I didn't know about the showdown, but then we had, as we'll kind of expand on, we had somebody else in our lobby who has obviously played through the entire game before, and he was not on the same side as Mike and I on the end, and he was just mowing us down because he knew what to do and we didn't. So kind of, it kind of
spoil it, man. The game's 12 years old, but at the end of the game, it's a 4-player co-op game, and at the end of the game, it pits 2-on-2 against each other, and it doesn't really explain that to you. Just all of a sudden, it's just like the cutscene ends and you're thrown in, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be shooting my teammates I've been working with the whole time? Like, it's just, there's these really like jarring changes in gameplay like throughout that game that kind of messes with your head, and you're just like, what? Why is this going on?
I do want to give a quick nod to them, though. As you said, I was playing on my Series X. When I bought it for $5 on the store, which was great in itself. It was very cheap. But then I booted it up, and for specific backwards compatible games, they will give you a notification at the top of your screen if it's enhanced in any way. And this game in itself had high dynamic range on it that they added in, and it had an FPS boost on it. So it ran really crispy on my Series X. And looking at videos, like I was jogging memory and looking at YouTube right now at somebody playing it, and mine looks like leaps and bounds better than what this is.
Yeah, it did not run well on the Xbox 360, dude. I was like, the frames per second were dipping into like the 20s and sometimes the teens. Like, yeah, it was rough.
Mine felt like at least a solid 60. Like, honestly, it was pretty smooth.
But what baffled me is, even though this game's super old, and like it was critically panned, people are still playing it. Every night Mitch and I hopped on this, somebody joined our lobby. It was just crazy to just have random people joining.
It didn't matter what day it was, what time it was. People were on it no matter when we booted it up.
And I did play this a couple years back on PlayStation 3, and it was the same situation. I was able to hop in a game no problem. I'm just like, what? People are playing this?
It was kind of helpful, and like because we kind of struggled on. We were playing a pretty high difficulty from what I remember we picked, but or somewhat high, and it helped having at least one more guy there that was like competent and could help in certain aspects in our areas, because there were some that were kind of frustrating that took us a few tries to get through.
Yeah, the game is janky. The difficulty is very unfair. Like, there's at the end of the day, would I recommend it? No. But was it as bad as everybody said? Not at all. It's
No.
it's an okay third-person shooter, but as we mentioned earlier, like, those were a dime a dozen on the Xbox 360, so you really had to come with your A game if you were going to stick out back in 2012.
Yeah, and kind of like you already mentioned, it was fun to play with my cousin. It was just fun to do it co-op. Would I ever play that solo? No, but yeah, Mike and I could laugh about it in certain aspects, and they just enjoyed doing and playing it together. So yeah, definitely the company you keep.
Right, and I think that's it. I think that was the last Resident Evil game that I still had to beat. No, that's not true. There's
Resident like weird ones.
Survivor 2 on PlayStation 2.
Oh, okay.
Which is a light game that was only released in Japan.
Oh.
Light gun game on PlayStation 2. But also that one got really bad reviews, so. But anyway, I think you can beat that one in like 2 hours. I'll crank through that one. And then I'm not counting the Game Boy game, but
that was a weird one I was thinking of.
Yeah, not counting those the stripped down handheld games. But anyway, Mitch, thanks for cranking through that with me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Even though it wasn't a great game, still fun.
Hop in these crappy games with me.
Yeah. That's great when we could talk about it on here too.
Yeah, I know there's newer and better games to play, but damn it, I want to play Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. It's bugging me. All right, man. You've been playing Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon, so you haven't quite beaten it yet?
I'm like on probably the last chapter, the second to last chapter. I'm about 35, 40 hours in to the game. And I do want to say right off the bat that it has become my favorite Yakuza that I have played. It has gone. Yakuza 0 was my favorite. Mostly because I love Majima, and you get to play like half of the game as Majima in Yakuza 0. But yeah, Yakuza 7, even though it's a complete like shift in combat, so instead of like being like a RPG / fighter, it is now a straight up Japanese turn-based RPG. Like, it completely shifted it to turn-based. Yeah, there's no fighting in it whatsoever. I mean, you are fighting, but you're turn-based fighting. So yeah, it's become maybe story-wise not my favorite, but gameplay-wise, it is definitely my favorite. And I think I've done more of the side content than I've done in any Yakuza that I've ever played. Like, like there's always like a billion sub-stories you can do. There's always like mini games and like side games. Like they have so much content that they throw into their world. But this one I've done quite a bit and unlocked a lot of rare achievements that a lot of people didn't go and like completely finish. So it's been kind of cool that I've really stuck with it, and I've enjoyed a lot of the aspects. I do want to highlight some of the things. So as I said, it's basically operates as, and they really lean into it being a turn-based Japanese RPG. Like, they really want to make it seem like it's essentially like a Final Fantasy of sorts. They lean into a lot of like stuff, and they kind of also throw a lot of different games into their game. So just some funny things that I've noticed. So when you complete quests, or like if you complete chapters or like certain like mini games within it, there's like a little like, how like Final Fantasy, like whenever you complete a quest, that has the little like the same like dun, 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 like Yakuza has their own now within Yakuza 7 to kind of mirror it, lean into them being a Japanese RPG that's turn-based, like a Final Fantasy. So that was pretty funny. Basically, there are like dungeons and loot. So it is like a lot of the Yakuza games, like you can get loot and like pick up gear and equip it to your character, but it doesn't really mean as much. You can still pretty much whoop people's butt, like just by leveling up your characters throughout Yakuza. Those items that you pick up don't typically do a whole lot. But in this, like equipping your gear to your characters, and you basically have 4 that you keep out at a time, and equipping them really is beneficial to winning fights. Like, you can't just do it on like fighting skill alone. Like, you need to like gear up and really like think strategically about what gear would fit with each character, because they all have like specific jobs, which are really their like class, like a mage or something like that. So it's kind of funny, like when you enter battles, like when you find and you like run into a random enemy on the street, because you still do that just like any other Yakuza game. They like kind of transform into like the main character Ichi's like imagination, so they look like all like decked out in like actual like fantasy costumes and whatnot. So they look kind of ridiculous, but it's like in like a super funny Yakuza way. And they all have funny enemy names on them too. They're super creative with the enemy names. So a couple of them that stuck out to me. There's one that's called Notorious VIP, and he just looks like he's dressed up like he's Biggie, and which is pretty funny. There's another one that's like Hungry Homeless, and this dude's got like a hippo like mask on, but he's just this bum homeless guy. And then like another one was called Piss Wizard. It's just this guy. He just looks like a wizard, but he's completely naked, essentially. And the last one was like Twitchy Streamer, which was like somebody who obviously looked like a Twitch streamer, like some big nerd that like, you know, has never seen the day of light. So yeah, they kind of lean into it, and they call all of these, I think it's Sujamon. So basically you have what you call a Sujadex, which is basically like your Pokedex. And when you defeat all these weird people that they've created in this world, you get them added to your Sujadex. So basically, it's like you're like collecting Pokemon throughout the game, and like you get rewards when you capture or run into a certain amount of them, because they have like I think it's 250 total like different like types of enemies. So it's kind of cool like that they kind of leaned into like Japanese RPGs of like Pokemon in the scenario where you actually have like a Pokedex, which is funny. But just kind of lean into more of that, just like games within games. I did so much of the side content. They have Dragon Kart is what they call it, where it's literally Mario Kart in a Yakuza world, which I thought was just like, I mean, it doesn't operate as like good as Mario Kart, because Mario Kart's a classic, but it's still like a pretty fun little racer, and it's a good like side story to go and do. So that was cool. They have another one called Can Quest. Your character starts out as being homeless, so you have to collect cans to make money, essentially. But like this can collecting mini game, it operates like Pac-Man. So basically, you're like collecting a bunch of cans in a row and like going through a maze and trying not to get hit by other people that are collecting them. So it's basically like Pac-Man. And then they have other ones too, like they've got this thing called Ichiban Confections that I've done a whole bunch of. It's like literally just a management sim where you go and like manage a territory and try and be like the number one company in throughout Japan or whatever. So there's just so many like games within games that it's insane. I think I did 40 sub stories, which is like unheard of for me. I don't ever do that many sub stories, but those operate just like every other Yakuza game, and they're funny. I think we talked about one of the sub stories too in one of our Yakuza breakdowns that we've had in a prior podcast. There was the baby one where he goes in and he finds out that all these like beefy Yakuza guys have a fetish for being babied, and they're all in diapers and whatnot. So that was a pretty classic one. And then I think the one other thing I want to talk about, when you do certain things, like either subquests or like sub stories or like anything like that, you unlock like these people that you can call on your cell phone to help you. Almost like, in some games they give you like some sort of companion that you can call out to come and help you in battle for a second. And they call them pound mates. And which it's such a goofy name. So like, for instance, like I did that baby sub story where like the adult guys were babies. So I completed the quest for them, and I got the baby guy as a pound mate. So I got to call him, and he does some weird like animated intro and comes in and like, I don't know, lowers their attack and defense, or does something like weird to help you in battle when you need them. And you can pay money to call on people to come in like that and help you. Uh-oh, Mike, you might have froze.
What? I'm frozen?
Nope, you're back.
I unfroze.
You hear me, Mike? Yeah, you're good. But yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's really Yakuza 7. I could talk about this a ton. I have so many like funny things. Like it's just a great overall game. They really killed it in every shape or form. I would say their only like slightly weak point is the story is not as good, but I still have enjoyed it thoroughly, and I've burned through this game super quick. So yeah, highly recommend. It's a good switch from the. I was getting a little tired of like the fighting all the time, so like doing this turn based switch up was actually pretty cool.
Nice, man. Yeah, I just love that the studio just went all in. They're like, this is a video game. Let's just like lean into it and overdo it and be very video gamey and just kind of be very self-aware and make fun of all these other video game tropes and JRPG tropes and just have fun.
Yeah, literally, like just like that. And it's funny because like they saw the success of 7, and then in an Infinite Wealth, they doubled down on that. Because I'm pretty sure a big portion of Infinite Wealth is like a management sim, kind of like Animal Crossing in a way. So I think they really have leaned into like we have a Yakuza formula, but like we can like expand it and do a bunch of weird stuff with it, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, man, they can do anything. These games are so deep, and as you mentioned, there's games within games. I mean, you can go into the arcades and play classic Sega games, or like you said, they made their own Mario Kart style game. It's just that's the problem. So many games these days, just they get stale after a while. It's the same thing over and over again. I love when a game just continues to switch it up and keep it fresh, but in a way that makes sense, because not like Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City that tried to switch it up all of a sudden and with no forewarning, but with something like Yakuza Like a Dragon, you're expecting whatever to come next is going to be wild, but they will talk you through it.
Yeah,
and let
they
you
do
know
a great
how to
job.
play whatever new mechanic they're bringing in or new game, mini game.
Exactly.
All right, cool, man. Anything else on Yakuza Like a Dragon?
No, I love it. Just play it if you haven't. And I thought I did think like I was getting a little bit fatigued at the Yakuza world because I did beat 0 through 6 in a pretty short time span for how long those games are. But then like 7 felt like a breath of fresh air, honestly. It just got me sucked right back in.
Yeah, damn, you beat 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6?
Yep.
Woo! Man.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I had a couple other games that I beat since the last time we talked. Are kind of running over time, so I'll just mention them briefly. First up was God of War 3 Remastered. I kind of went over this, I think, last episode. I love the God of War games. The original Trilogy, and maybe even Ascension. I don't know, I haven't played Ascension, but also the games on PSP. They're all very similar. I had beaten a bunch of them in a row and got kind of burnt out. And now enough time had passed that I came back to God of War 3. And this game, it's incredible. It looks incredible. I mean, largely it's just an increase in resolution and frame rate. But the art assets, even though they were made way back, I think in like 2010, man, it still looks incredible. And God of War, I mean, another one where throughout the game they do introduce a lot of new mechanics, and it stays fresh until the very end. And you feel like a badass. It's extra bloody, extra gory, extra brutal, almost too much to a point. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love cartoonish violence, over the top violence like gore, but in God of War 3, Kratos, he just does not care. Like, every time somebody's like asking for help, Kratos just like uses them, abuses them, and murders them in some horrible way. Like, he is out for vengeance, and he's gonna kill everybody in his path, whether they're innocent or not. And it was kind of jarring because towards the end of the game, he did show sympathy for Pandora, or it's just like, I don't know, they spent the whole game just showing him as just this ruthless killer, which was kind of like, it was intense, and then to all of a sudden be like, okay, now he's compassionate. You're just kind of like, well, that was a weird character shift. But anyway, it was amazing. I watched all the behind the scenes footage that came with this game, and there was a lot of it, and it was very interesting insight into Santa Monica Studios and their development of this game.
Nice.
I think they had like their game director leave early on in the project, and they promoted somebody else from within who kind of had to take the helms and see this thing through. But yeah, they work their butts off. Anytime I watch videos like that, and I appreciate developers that much more. I love playing video games, but I really do not want to be a game developer. It is a tough job.
Seems like it.
Yeah. So yeah, God of War 3 Remastered. That was good. Played it on PlayStation 4. The other one is Zombie Army Trilogy, which I beat the first one and second one with my buddy long ago, and we decided to hop in and finish up the third chapter. And it is cool because they did like some crossover with Left 4 Dead, so you can play as the Left 4 Dead characters in it.
That's cool.
And it's a fun game, man. It is a third-person shooter. It's dark, gritty. There's just weird stuff throughout each level, weird like cultish stuff that just seems so random and has no other purpose other than to mess with your head. And it is brutally difficult. And the save points are far and few between. So go into it knowing that. But we always have a blast with these games. They're total like popcorn games. You know, the movies, you go to a popcorn flick, like, hey, it's going to be action-packed. Plot's not going to be deep, but you know you're going to have fun. That's kind of how this game is. And you get to kill Hitler at the end. So, you know, just icing on the cake. As we mentioned before, that these games used to be called Nazi Army 1 and 2, and then when they released the third chapter and sold it as a collection as of all three games, they just called it Zombie Army. And you know, I don't get why they did that. Like, just call it Nazi Army Trilogy. Like, why? I don't understand that. We talked about this before. I'm like, who are you trying not to offend the Nazis? Like, screw that. This is a game about killing Nazis, man. What? Don't try to get politically correct here, man. Screw the Nazis. Anyway, I just found that weird that they changed the name. Anyway, I digress. So, good game. Recommend it wholeheartedly. My buddy and I are going to roll into the fourth game, Zombie Army 4 Dead Army.
Forgot that, yeah, they've got 4 now.
Yeah. But that's it, man. We've beaten a couple of games. Some short ones for me. A long Yakuza game for you. Along with Resident Evil Raccoon City. You did beat that with me.
Yep.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll have more for next time. Yes, I know we are the Hills Are Silent podcast. And yes, I have been playing the Silent Hill 2 remake, but I have not finished it yet. I will cover that in another episode after I beat it. Sad to say, there are a lot of bugs in that game, and it stutters like crazy, despite my computer being way above the recommended minimum specs. And it's not, I don't think it's hardware related, because the game will run, flawlessly, 1440p, whatever, 60 frames per second, and then it dips so bad. It stutters constantly, and then the frame rate will just tank. And it's not like what you would expect in like an open area. It happens anywhere, even small confined spaces. So not sure what's going on there. It has been kind of hindering my enjoyment of it. But I'm fighting through that because the game underneath the roughness is actually good. And I'll cover it more extensively next time. But you can find our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, the normal places. Where else can we be found, Mitch?
Our Twitter is at Hills Are Silent. Our Instagram is Instagram/Hills Are Silent. Our TikTok is at The Hills Are Silent Podcast. And our YouTube is at The Hills Are Silent. If you have any questions, comments, hit us up on our Spotify comments, our YouTube comments, or at our email inbox, hillsaresilent@gmail.com. We'll catch you in the next episode.